G'day folks, Mike Bartlett here, pastor at King's Baptist Church. I hope that you are having a fantastic week. We are just about to enter into the month of May, which traditionally in Baptist churches has been called May Missions Month. And like every month of May, we are still wanting to definitely highlight the work, the ministry that we support as a congregation overseas. And to that end, I've just invited our friend Ross Britton, who has overseen our ministries that we support overseas as part of the Global Neighbourhood over the last number of years to come in, and we've been having a chat about the reality that in the midst of a global pandemic, sadly, it's often those that are on the margins who are actually the hardest hit around the world. Is that how it is, sort of thing, Ross?
Yes, it is. It's the reality. I've been in contact with a number of our projects, CMA project teams in Africa and Asia, and I've listened to their concerns and their fears, and it confirms with me how vulnerable those communities are across Africa and Asia. Those countries that are at the bottom of the development index, human development index, they have such little resources to handle something like the COVID virus. Some of the things that they've expressed to me, some of the concerns are questions like how widespread is the virus? We in Australia, we know where it is. We get hourly reports almost. We have good testing facilities, but these countries don't have that resource. And so they're in sort of confused and not too sure what the real situation is. And how best to help the people who take measures against what might be coming to their country. Most of the countries in the world, over 200 countries have reported cases of COVID virus, so it's out there, but just how much of it is, how widespread it is in these communities is a big question. How to operate under lockdown. Many of these countries have followed suit of the Western countries and locked down their economy, their whole structure, and that's had an incredible impact upon people who just normally go to market. You got to get essentials, food, medicines, and a whole range of things.
So some of the things that we, take for granted as being possible and being available here in developing countries makes even those basic tasks more difficult.
And then they're also faced with how to safely treat people who show these symptoms, whether they're suspect cases or not. And it's the things of other beds available, other places available to put people who are sick from this, suffering the symptoms from it. How are there medical people, nurses and doctors? In many of these situations, they're a long, long way away from where these people may be suffering. And other resources, such as personal protection, equipment, etc.
Obviously, the reality is that even in Western countries with good facilities and good help, there's a significant amount of anxiety and fear, even amongst our population. How would you reflect that in developing countries where, for example, your organisation, CMA, works? What are the fears of the people in those countries in particular?
One of the big fears is how they would identify and COVID virus and then treat it. Their resources are so limited. They don't have beds. They don't have doctors are far away from many of these areas. They don't have nurses. The clinics are maybe a few and far between, and they certainly don't have protective equipment, personal protective equipment, and then the medicines and other things that are needed to treat someone who might be suspected or have known to have the COVID virus symptoms. But yet at the same time, they're afraid of what will happen to the other people, the regular things that happen that they treat, that they're often overwhelmed with anyhow. Pregnancies, anti and postnatal care of women, the HIV and AIDS patients that are on medications and present to them at different times and need care and support.
Mm.
Malaria, TB,
Mm.
and the big areas are life-threatening conditions for young children, those under 5 years of age, such as malnutrition,
Yeah.
malaria and other things.
Yeah.
And then there's the cancer patients, the people who are struggling with the same sort of things we struggle with, ongoing. How do they care for them in the face of having to respond to COVID virus patients as well?
Mm.
In fact, when they've had Ebola outbreaks in Africa in years gone by, the numbers that have been killed by these other diseases not being treated properly far exceed the actual numbers that are taken out by the Ebola virus. So this is one of the big fears that they have.
Yeah.
There are other fears as well, and but they probably line up in the economic area, the impact of people, of lockdowns and people suffering with these conditions, what will they have on the economy?
Not being able to go about just even their normal lives.
Yeah.
So the reality is that over the month of May, we, even though we're obviously doing church differently at the moment, we still want to highlight the work that we support overseas. And that's why we will be highlighting the organisations that we are partnered with, such as Global Interaction, SimAid, Transform Cambodia, Baptist World Aid, and we are going to invite you to consider how, even in the midst of this season where there's a significant amount of stress that we're facing as a community, we want to continue to support those who are suffering the most around the world. So we'll be highlighting those in our services throughout this month, as well as some bits of communication such as this coming out during the week. So I just want to say thanks, Ross, for coming in.
Yeah.
Great to have a chat with you, mate. Have a great week, folks, and we look forward to being together on Sunday. Grace and peace.